Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Now, this is going to be a video where we discuss a cascade of events that could trigger Bitcoin's move first to around $25,000 and then potentially all the way up to $50,000. Now, this is an excerpt from the previous video where we did a deeper macro and general market conditions overview along with a dashboard analysis where we identified two really interesting coins leading into the next rising bull market stage. So if you guys missed that video, I really recommend checking it out. But in today's video, we are going to be focused only on the conditions that Bitcoin needs to trigger for that big move first to $25,000 and then potentially to $50,000. Alrighty, here we are on the actual charts, and I'm going to go through now the possible series of events that may take place now that could cause Bitcoin to have a big move all the way up to around $25,000 and then potentially even further up all the way up to around $50,000 if things play out, especially if you take into consideration what we talked about in the previous video, guys. If you guys do remember, we talked about the longer term potential targets for Bitcoin, and we went through a series of confluencing events using the Ichimoku as well as the fibs, right? And right over here, you guys can see all of our fibs. And we showed in the previous video how each one of Bitcoin cycles has had Bitcoin bounce up to the 0.786 Fibonacci level, which has lined up with the top of the cloud and then has retraced, right? It did so in the 2015 cycle. It did so in the 2019 cycle. Now, the difference between the two cycles was that when Bitcoin did it in 2015, the cloud was green, which allowed Bitcoin to have a continuation of the bull run all the way up to $20,000 without a deep pullback. In 2019, however, when Bitcoin had its bounce up to 0.786, the cloud had not turned green yet, which caused a deeper pullback back into the 200 moving average. And then we had the big Bitcoin bull run only after the cloud turned green, right? So now we are in a current posture where Bitcoin may have a rally, but the cloud is still red. And that rally may actually take us all the way up to $50,000. So going back to our chart right over here, we're going to see how everything over here structurally actually lines up with our indicators. Now remember, guys, we like to use indicators because it keeps us objective, right? The Ichimoku keeps us objective. When it comes to trend lines, however, it's really hard to stay objective, which is why we try to use them as secondary tools. In the previous video, we used objective tools, right? Our Fibonacci as well. While they can be subjective, use them on the lower time frames, we use them on the cyclical time frames, which allow them to be a lot more objective. The Ichimoku is flat out objective. Today, we're going to be talking about these patterns, which can be subjective, but we are going to be using them in conjunction with our Ichimoku to show you guys how it all confluences together, giving us a series of confirmation signals to start triggering that bull run position that we're looking for, right? So let's go ahead and start with a clean slate. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to hide all of our indicators, right? And I'm also going to hide our drawings very temporarily. We're going to go through each one of these one by one. All right, cool. So here we are, clean chart. And what I want you guys to first focus on is this little structure right at the bottom over here, right? Now, we've been putting in the structure for, let's say, around 8 weeks, right? Remember, each one of these bars is one single candle, one single weekly candle. So that's 8 weeks, 56 days, okay? Now, a lot of people may have noticed this. Bitcoin's putting in a sort of rounded formation, a possible ascending triangle, and I have that marked out for you guys already. We're going to go ahead and unhide it right over there. Nice little ascending triangle. And we actually have a nice little measured move for this ascending triangle where you simply take the length from the wick to the height of the triangle and you can go ahead and plot the potential breakout target, which is pointing to around $19,000. Now, you guys know that I love patterns within patterns within patterns, right? One single pattern alone is not very exciting. It's when we have a cascade of patterns that line up with our indicators that makes things beautiful. That makes technical analysis so exciting, because when it all comes together, guys, you capture those massive wins. And right over here, we have a pattern within a pattern that may potentially lead to a big move. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the second pattern over here. Okay, first let me go ahead and hide the ascending triangle pattern. We're going to hide the measured move as well. And we're going to go ahead and turn on the falling wedge that I have marked out for you guys. Okay, now some of you might be saying, hey Sean, this falling wedge has already broken out. Yes, it has. It has broken down. And if you guys have been following Mango for a while, you guys will know that one of my favorite patterns is a falling wedge that has failed to break up and has instead broken down and then breaks back into the wedge and breaks up, right? And over here, we might be seeing something similar, a falling wedge with our ascending triangle that we just marked out. And now here's where it gets really cool, guys. Here's where it gets really cool. The measured move of that ascending triangle lines up with a potential break, ever so slightly, okay, of the falling wedge. Now remember, this falling wedge needs to break back up above for us to say that, hey, we're looking for that bigger move. And even then, we have a few more things to contend with before the massive move to 50,000. Okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, let me go ahead and quickly delete these drawings over here. Okay, all right. The falling wedge, right? What we've marked out over here is not just arbitrary. It's lining up with our Ichimoku Tenkan. And the measured move of the ascending triangle is also lining up with our Ichimoku Tenkan, right? And if you guys remember from the previous video, we discussed how the weekly Ichimoku Tenkan is going to be our guiding light. Reclaiming our Tenkan is going to be the first big trigger for the potential bigger move all the way up to the cloud, right? Well, now we are seeing that our ascending triangle, okay, our smaller pattern right over here, its measured move points to the Tenkan. And that Tenkan is lining up with our falling wedge. And if we break our falling wedge, well, we now have the measured move of the falling wedge, which I have marked out over here for you guys. Oops, not that one. This one over here. Okay, it's simply the length of the wedge, guys, right? You take it from the base of the candle all the way to the candle closes, or you can use the wicks too. You don't need to be perfect with this, okay? So you go ahead and do something similar and plot out our measured move for our falling wedge. Right at our Tenkan, we are going to see that we line up with the top of the candle closes over here, guys, which is around 24,378. And what do you know? That lines up perfectly with our weekly 200 moving average coming in at 24,500-ish, right? Now again, guys, this is assuming that the weekly 200 keeps going this way, right? But we've stayed underneath the weekly 200 long enough for the weekly 200 to start flattening out and potentially angling downwards. More like this, actually. It's going to happen over a period of time. But also remember that this structure is not going to break out from where the Tenkan is. That's assuming that price actually goes up in one straight line over here. Now, Bitcoin could do that, right? Bitcoin could do that. But let's go ahead and draw this a little bit lower. Say that it happened somewhere around here. We are looking at potentially somewhere around $23,000, okay? $23,000 to $24,000. Again, we do not need to be perfect with this. The point over here is a cascading series of events that's lining up with our objective thesis, okay? We had objective triggers with our weekly Tenkan and then a move towards the Kijun, etc., from the previous videos. It's one big story being put together. Remember what I told you guys. You're not going to get your entire life-changing profits from one single 20-minute video. Life isn't that easy, guys. We're going to have to put in the work. And if you're willing to put in the work and join me on this journey, I promise you, you guys are going to be successful at this. All right. So if we see these triggers, the weekly Tenkan, we still then have the weekly 200 to contend with. You see the weekly 200 get claimed as well? Then things get really, really exciting. At that point, we can see a move all the way up to the top of the cloud because we have the Kumo twist, which I explained to you guys is a magnet, right? Which also lines up with our Fibonacci retracement move that we talked about in yesterday's video. So, to summarize everything we talked about today, we have low volatility on the dashboard. The trend has switched from short to neutral on the daily time frame. The 12-hour trend is long with low volatility. The 4-hour trend is long with low volatility. And on the charts, we are seeing a low volatility consolidation structure on the weekly time frame as well, where if we can confirm weekly candles above the Tenkan sitting at around $19,200, right? Note that down, guys, $19,200 at the recording of this video. If we can confirm candles above there, it's going to also line up with a break of this falling wedge, a cascading pattern leading us to the test of the weekly 200. If we can claim the weekly 200, well, that's when we start getting excited. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please let me know in the comments down below. Again, your comments have been so motivating for me to keep these videos up, because putting all of this together does take a lot of effort. So again, guys, please keep the likes, the subscribes, and the love coming. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, do the mango way, do it the stress-free way. Ciao.